Okay, so new day for me, next clip for you. Right, so just now is a good time for a quick recap, because this is where we're reaching that point and why it was a good point for me to stop yesterday. This is where we're going to start making a bit more permanent fixings. So this is where it becomes a lot harder to undo anything that we're not happy with. So I want to go through a few of those things. Okay, so I just want to give you a quick walk around of where we're at. The skin isn't under any tension, but we do have the trailing edge tube in position. I want to talk and show you a few things on there that you might get confused at. And the leading edge is just pushing against the leading edge skin. We're checking that the former is in and just back enough there, like I say, about the thickness of the fold. Now coming down here, you can see that the leading edge just finishes about here. So I've got all of this to go yet, so a lot of hard work. Now this is where it's going to throw you out a little bit because you're going to convince yourself that the skin is on wrong. So if you see where this eyelet is here, that's lined up central perfectly there. Same, this one's not quite there just yet. This one's all right, but this one, you see how that is pressing against this skin there? And same, this one here, your brain's going to tell you that that doesn't look right. But I can assure you it is. What's going to happen over the next course of work is we're going to be increasing the tension on this skin here. As that happens, this will be pulled into place. So don't worry that this is the scenario. That there is perfectly normal. So next stage for us is really just working this leading edge into that skin now so that we can put some tension on. So there are a number of ways of doing this next phase. I've tried them all. I can't say I've found one that I have had the maximum amount of success with. But what I found useful on the last one was threading in some Nynja cord, and it's more of a garroting technique. The technique that I used in order to tension the wing is one I've tried before and had good success with. There are other ones. The manual will certainly show you a similar technique, but it's important that whatever you choose, you know, you're not going to damage any tubes in any way. But the important thing that we need to do is ensure that this tube, when we're tensioning it, is sitting right in the end of the tip there. It's going to be a lot harder to resolve down the line, and certainly when we're going to make a permanent fixing into this later on, we want to make sure it's in the right place. You know, we don't want to be loads of drill holes. You know, we want to be able to drill it, fix it, it's right. What I'm going to do next is fit this tube. This is SKR38 if memory serves, and this is the tensioning tube. We're going to use this in a number of ways. It's going to help spread the leading edge and the trailing edge, and it's also going to be used in order to put the tension on the skin. So you're looking for this tube. There is a bolt at which point now you can go ahead and fix in, a bit of Loctite, and it's the one with two holes in it. So there's two holes on one side that don't go straight through. So they're the holes just going on one side. These holes need to be facing inboard, so these you should be able to see from this side. What we're going to have to do is separate these. If I can show you, or I will show you in a moment, there is a cam in here that we need to lock into the bolted end. It doesn't bolt in, it just slides in, and there's a cam. Can be quite difficult. You'll see some scary pictures using screwdrivers, which again, we'll talk about that when we're doing the job. Now, I know I keep bleating on about the manual, but it really does give you a lot of tips. And in the manual, it will tell you here, this is current build manual 1.4H. I believe that we're on I, but this is the one that came with mine. And on this particular page, it's telling us we need to cut a piece of wood 1,035 millimeters long. Right, and here is my piece of wood. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be positioning this to press against the trailing edge and pushing against the leading edge. But obviously that wood there is going to cause significant markings on the tube. So what I use is my silicone rag. So again, that's going to just aid. And that's going to be placed just on the leading edge there, so I've got something to push against. Again, I use this because it's got a little bit of silicone on there and it'll just slide nice and easy. So the next job to do is to connect the tensioner cable, the one that has the turnbuckle. So let's make sure I always get these the wrong way first time. Oh, no, we're in luck. And what I can do is I can go ahead and connect this up. Now, I don't need to lock wire it at this point, but I certainly can bring on some tension. And what you want to be looking for is that the unturnbuckled tension cable is actually coming under some tension. So okay, so things are going to start progressing quite quickly now. We can start really getting this wing to look a lot more like a wing. The next job is to fit these two tubes, and it can be a bit tricky when you first look at them, but there is a little pocket here. You don't try and slide these in through those holes. There is a little pocket at the back. Now this does take a little bit of effort. So I'm sliding along the top portion of the pocket here, trying to avoid poking straight through this hole. And same on the bottom pocket, we have a small opening there, and past and then down so that they sit in this pocket there. So it's got to go a lot further in, past this stitching there, and slot back into this pocket that's there. So a little bit of effort to get them in. Nice little tip is using the back end of a rubber mallet. You can just get that in those pockets and it gives you something to push against, so you can really get that these two battens seated correctly. And once they are in, they should just simply slide so that they're all against this front edge. Don't worry about this at the minute. When we're putting in the next spacer blocks, they're going to sort all of that out for us. Okay, so next thing we're looking to do is fit these tensioning tubes. These are SK33, SK32, and you'll see that they aren't quite centre. They are offset, and the longer side is going to be uppermost. You'll see that we've got these indentations there. These are going to fit through the holes on the lower and upper surface and locate those these tubes that are on there. This bolt should then go through the holes that we've already lined up, and that's where we're then going to bring on the tension there. So hopefully we've already dressed these so that there's no pointy edges on the top there. And what we're going to do is just slide these in. It is a little bit of a tricky job, I won't lie, but don't be frightened of it. So next we're looking to bring a little bit of tension on. So using a nylock nut and another nut, we're going to twist these together so that they bite. And we're going to need a open-ended in there. Look at just bringing a bit more tension on now. And again, don't rush on this. It's all about setting up, making sure the tension's going in the right way. Okay, so now that we are set up, we can really start looking at getting some tension into this wing. What we're going to do is we're going to obviously bolt this through. We're going to put a tensioner into the system by turning obviously on these nuts here, a ring spanner or open spanner on the back bolt there, which will push the rod in. That inadvertently is going to bend this tube that we fitted before. A typical bend according to the manual is around about 44 mil, so my OCD is going to make it 44 mil, and I don't know if you can see that there, but currently we have a gap of around 25, so lots to go. What I do when this is going in is I'm also visually checking the tension of the skin, because ultimately that's what we're looking for. You know, we're not looking for a specific measurement, we just got a guideline. So what we are looking for is a nice tension in this top skin. At some point I'm going to stop. I'm also going to then look at retensioning and making sure there's no issues on the leading edge by just putting a small turn, because my wing is still under tension on the grot that I've got there. So again, maybe a half turn just to make sure that there's no wrinkles in that front edge. So I'm going to crack on. Okay, so we've done quite a number of the tricky parts and it's really starting to take shape. What I want to go through now is some of the measurements, some of the checks that we need to do so that we can progress. And also want to show you on some of the whys we did, some of the prep works and some of the things that we don't need to worry about. First of all, I can see I've got a nice tension across the wing, that's great, but more importantly I have very few, next to no wrinkles across the leading edge, and that for me is worth all of the effort that you put in order to make that happen. Again, this technique really works for me. What we're going to do is at some point we're going to drill a hole through there and put in a self tapper, but what we need to do is take a measurement from here to here. Manual says that a typical measurement is 440 millimeters, and from the skin to the leading edge tube there, so just taking that on, I have to use one eye, I've got 439, so I'll take that. But other things I wanted to show you was where we worked on the cross tubes. So the cross tubes that are in here, there are eyelets and bolts. Now I don't know if you can see that there, but there's a very small indentation. That's by the connecting on the struts. And again, there's another one just here. These are the ones that we put the black caps on before. Now, had I not trimmed them down and had I not put the black caps on, there'd be a little bit of work required in order to repair the wing there, but again, that's just sitting nice there. When we put the battens on, you're not going to see them at all, but you can get the light right. There's another one that is just there. Again, when the battens go in, the skin lifts off those. And again, we're looking all good here. Right, I'm going back, have another read of the manual, and then we can look at progressing with this wing a little bit more. I reckon we can get these wings on today. That'd be ace. So next stage for us is inserting the battens. On this particular occasion I've commandeered our Alan, who is also the build inspector, so I have to be very careful, otherwise he won't sign the wing off because he's mean like that.
True, true.
Okay, so hopefully we've dressed our battens already, getting rid of any sharp edges. Now for me this is a gloves on job. You'll also want a rag. We will need a flat screwdriver at some point, and I also use this Alan Jackson made rigging tool. Now we want to try and get these in as firmly as possible. Don't just try to yank them in, or it's very easy to push that through a pocket or even burn a hole in the underside of the batten. So we do want to be firm, we do want to be positive, we do want to try and get it through in one motion. The last thing we want to do is put them in halfway and stop, and then when we try and have another go, there's a risk of it pushing again through the skin. So don't be afraid, be positive, and again, little tips that I use. Some silicone spray is a very useful thing. So I'm going to start off just particularly on the tips and on the camber there, so using a rag just to spread that around. We're going to start from the tip, we're going to work our way out. Now I'm going to bring these all in to about here on this particular occasion, because as we get further along it builds up the tension. So are you ready, Al?
I'm ready.
We're teasing in there. Nice and positive, definitely a gloves on job. There we go, just get it over the leading edge there, and we can worry about this bit later. So that's one, another 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to go. So now we got all the battens in, all we need to do is just finish off getting these battens, top battens secured. This little dovetail here needs to sit on the trailing edge tube, so that's got to go in maybe about 1/2 inch. And we also need to get it into this little batten pocket there to secure the batten in place. We don't recommend you using a flathead screwdriver. You don't want to damage this dovetail there, and worst case scenario is you slip and score your skin, puncture your skin. That would be a very bad day. So we have this Alan Jackson rigging tool made by his very own good hands. This is obviously patent pending, so please don't steal his idea. And we're just going to give this a gentle push so we can get that a little bit further in. Into the batten pocket to secure that batten in place. Okay, so this is one of those bits where we keep saying the manual, the manual, the manual, because right near the back and nowhere near the wing building parts, you're going to find a small section about the aerofoil profile support blocks. Now it's very easy to throw away the bit that you'll need for this because it looks just like a piece of packing, you know, in fact it looks just like a foam block. But right at the back here it gives you some measurements for the spacers. Obviously out near the tip where it's a smaller profile, where we reprofiled that batten, we're going to need a smaller one. I believe that one is, according to this, 110mm. So we need one of those, or two of those, one for each tip. And then we need the remainder to be this size, which is 155mm. Now these are going to sit between the lower batten and the upper batten, and they're going to help keep the wing shape. Now at the moment these are flat, so we need to profile these so they look in something like this one. I don't know if you can see that there. There's one Alan did earlier. Now we found there's a number of ways of doing it. You can get some sandpaper on a tube, and that works. You can use a round file, but this is what we found to be the best there, and this is more of a rasp file. So you see it's cambered on one side, and what we're going to do is just profile those batten spacers and then get them fitted into the wing. So we're really close to being finished now. The wing structure has been put together. We've got a bit of titivation to do, but again, that's on a personal level. What we need to do now is, again, refit the aileron to make sure that the cables are running correctly. We need to secure a fitting up at that end. So what I'm going to do is throw the aileron on. I'm going to retrieve the aileron cables, which I've left zip tie on this end, making sure I've corrected the upper aileron cable comes through the top skin and the lower aileron cable goes through the lower skin. We're going to connect that up, make sure that we're running free, make sure everything's okay. Last thing we want to do is discover a problem whilst we can do something about it now. So the upper aileron cable should be running through the U-bracket and be on the lower side. That's the one that's got this end on. And the other end with the turnbuckle, hopefully you remember to slide this bit towards the end. I did remind you. We just want to send this over the top of the turnbuckle cable and over the top of the cross tension tube, so that this is running free and not going to cause any snags or any rubbing. This I zip tie in place just to stop it moving. Okay, and now we should be able to operate the aileron. Okay, and that is our wing now built. This is our second wing as well for this aircraft, so it means that we are in a position where we can start looking at getting these onto the aircraft. We do have a bit of heat shrink that needs to go on the leading edge tubes again, but we'll do that just before it goes on to the aircraft. But all the battens are in place, all the spacers are in place, the wing is under tension, and there is no obvious snags or creases in it yet. And again, really don't rush and hit this with a heat gun. You really want to get a few hours in the air on it just to let the aircraft settle. Again, it looks all right now, but when it's on the aircraft and twists, there are a number of scratches and creases in this from delivery. That's perfectly normal. I am going to have a little bit of an address on those because again, it is easier to sort those out whilst it's on the bench. Other things I'm going to do is going to stick the registration on because that's easier to do on the bench, and I'm also going to fit the winglets at the same time and the nav lights and run in any cables because it's just easier for me in this scenario. But in essence, this is one Skyranger Nynja LS wing, fully completed, almost ready to go on.